Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, co-editor-in-chief of Retail Insider. Joining me today is Michael Kehoe, broker of record with Fairfield Commercial Real Estate in Calgary. Thanks, Mike, for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation, Mario.
Let's talk retail and let's start off by talking about last year, 2025. Tell me what your thoughts were and how you would describe 2025 looked like in the retail sector.
Well, it really was last year, the phrase, it was the best of times and the worst of times from Charles Dickens was totally appropriate. And it kind of set the tone for the Canadian shopping center scene last year. I mean, the contrast between thriving shopping centers and the tumultuous times driven by trade tensions between Canada and our southern neighbor, combined with the department store closures across the nation, that created an interesting dynamic.
Okay, let's talk about department stores, and you did mention the closures. Obviously, we're talking about Hudson's Bay, the massive retail news in Canada. Does that signal the end of department stores in the country?
It could it signals the end of department stores in the way that we knew them. I mean, all the experts have reported that department stores have almost vanished from the Canadian retail landscape, and I mean, shopping centers are in a period of transition, and it'll redefine the way that Canadians shop, and department stores will probably not be a part of that as we knew them.
hmm Now, Mike, when we look at, say, the Bay, just for example, they leave behind quite a lot of space, right? And so it's space in malls and some of the significant malls in this country, and it's space like right behind me on my screen. That's the downtown Bay in Calgary. What do you think's going to happen to all this massive space that's sitting empty right now?
Yeah, it was 80 plus stores, 9 million square feet of space. It's going to be interesting to see how it will be absorbed over time. It's going to take years, but it's interesting to note that I mean, we have major top tier malls in Canada that are operating without any department store anchors, and these centers are thriving with solid footfall and sales performance. But many challenges lie ahead. I mean, it's interesting to note that there are five Canadian cities. There are vacant downtown historic Hudson's Bay stores. I mean, in Calgary alone, the Hudson's Bay store is 450,000 square feet over roughly 10 acres. I mean, that store is completely vacant. So these impact the local retail markets, and it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Now, you know what? Let's take a look first of all at the shopping center stuff. A lot of the shopping centers in past have divvied up that big box space, right? And added four or five retailers on that. You, c- do you see that as the most likely answer to the empty bay space?
Yeah, the spaces will be repurposed. Several will be demolished completely in favor of increased density on the shopping center sites and possibly even in the downtown cores. But the spaces will be repurposed, remerchandised, and this is a positive thing. It helps shopping centers keep their offerings current and cater to evolving consumer demands.
Okay. And one last thing while we're on the bay, the downtown spots, the standalone buildings. What kind of uses outside of retail do you see as potential for some of these, I guess, historic, although they may not be technically designated historic, but they are historic buildings.
Yeah, the variety of uses from residential to boutique hotels. We've even heard talk of mini storage. The highest and best use for these spaces is evolving, and the new ownership of these buildings will have a plan, may involve retail, may involve food service, urban anchors such as, IKEA, Walmart, the list goes on with urban format, large format stores. It's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. So keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, well, we're also keeping an eye on the consumers these days, right? And a lot of challenges for consumers, right? Cost of living high, expenses everywhere you turn. How are consumers responding to the environment that they're in right now?
Yeah, and the industry experts cover this extensively, and it's in the media all the time.
Yeah.
In Canada, where moose are moose, and consumers and shoppers are cautious. That's what I would say. I think the value end of the shopping spectrum will excel this year, um, and everyone else will be following along, trying to evolve. So it's going to be an interesting year, and we're watching it closely.
Do you foresee more, you talk about the value side of things. Do you see more and more Dollarama type stores popping up throughout the country?
Yeah, the Dollarama, the chain that ate Canada, very successful, and I see more of their stores and stores in that category coming on. It's interesting to watch shopping centers where many top tier malls have introduced thrift stores or vintage stores,
Mhm.
and where we never would have thought to seen stores selling secondhand fashion in the malls and on the main streets. The chains like Value Village and others, we're seeing them in prime locations now on main streets across Canada, and it's interesting to watch this trend.
The last thing I was going to ask you is more into the how should we say I guess the quick service industry, right? Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing there and how that is growing. The quick service industry. Obviously there's lots of places that shut down, lots of restaurants shut down, but man, oh man, more and more keep setting up shop.
It's an endless flow of churn of quick service restaurants. They come and go. It's franchise driven, and often with new Canadians buying these franchises, opening their businesses, and trying to fulfill their Canadian dream. It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
We do see closures. We see these chains evolving both with their menus and their locational programs. So I think that trend will continue in 2026. And as the shopping center industry gathers in Whistler over the next few days, the professionals in the Canadian shopping center industry will be dealing with this. Leasing locations, bringing new chains on stream. There's no shortage of entrepreneurs who want to open quick service restaurants, and it's interesting to watch it, a continuous churn.
All right. Thanks, Mike, for joining us today.
Mario, thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, that was Michael Kehoe, who is broker of record with Fairfield Commercial Real Estate. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, co-editor in chief of Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.